We're in Mark chapter 13. We're in Mark chapter 13, and we've gone through this large section concerning answering the questions of when will these things come to pass? And, what things were those? Well, when the temple, he says the temple will be destroyed. He said, viewing the buildings of the temple, and as massive as this thing was, he said not one stone will be left upon another. Well, they're curious as to when that's going to happen. He doesn't give them a year. I mean, a specific year. It's going to happen in AD 70. It's going to happen 40 years from now. He doesn't tell them that, but he does give them the signs. For that they get signs. And he tells them to watch. And matter of fact, he tells it to everybody to watch. And that it will be very easy to know when it's time to get out of Jerusalem, when it's time to move on, because staying in Jerusalem is a very bad option. If you're not murdered during the siege by fellow Jews, which was going on, because they were very divided on the inside. And you show any kind of disloyalty, they would kill you. If that didn't kill you, the Romans most certainly would. And so he tells them what to look out for. And as Josephus writes, there were no Christians in Jerusalem when the Romans came knocking on the doors of Jerusalem, which it was a heavy-handed knock. Now, let's just look at verse 30, and then we'll continue on. Assuredly, I say to you, this generation will by no means pass away till all these things take place. What things? That is the destruction of Jerusalem. That generation would still be around 40 years from this point. Obviously, people will die, but the generation, there's still people from that generation who would be there. There comes a point when a generation is no more. There's nobody left of that generation. But when this is going to take place, that generation would still be standing. They would still be there, and these things would be witnessed by them. All right, verse 31, heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will by no means pass away. So he's telling them this is going to happen. That his words aren't going to pass away. It would be easier for heaven and earth to pass away, and they will, but his words are eternal. Heaven and earth are not, I'm talking about creation, heaven, not where God's throne is, but this created realm, this material realm where we're in, this is temporary. It's not eternal at all. But Christ's words are. They will not fail. They'll not pass away. Now, verse 32. We have a break in a subject because he says, but of that day and hour no one knows. Okay. Not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. So we can know from this that he can't be talking about the same thing. Now there's more to it than just a break, because he just said that this generation will not pass away till all these things take place. Then he says, of that day and hour no one knows. But he's been giving the signs concerning the destruction of Jerusalem. He's telling them what the signs would be. He tells them concerning what Daniel wrote and said, let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let him who's on the housetop, I'm reading verse 15 now, not go into the house, nor enter to take anything out of his house. That there are certain signs, when you see it, you better get out. If you haven't already left, it's time to get out. And to do this comfortably, you'd want to leave Jerusalem. Just go ahead and get out before the signs even appear. But verse 32, he says, but of that day and hour no one knows. All right, so he has changed subjects. And this is another way we know this. First off, the word that, but of that day, that in the Greek, there's more than one word for that. In English, we just have that. Of course, we have this, that's a different word. But they have different meanings of words for that. There is that, which is close, and that, which is distant. Now, what he's been talking about concerning the destruction of Jerusalem is not, he's not saying that's distant, because he's already said this generation will not pass away till all these things have been fulfilled. All these things will be done. Now, this is a kanes, this word for that, and it does mean remote and distant. So, of this remote, or that remote and distant day and hour, no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. So he is saying there is a distant day that's being considered now, that no one knows but the Father. And he's saying he doesn't even know it. At least then, does he know it now? I don't know. I can't answer that. I mean, one could say, yeah, he does know. But here, at least here on the earth, while he was here on the earth, he did not know. Nor do the angels know. This is something else. This is not something that is close enough for one generation to be able to see it. But this is something that is distant. This is something that is far away from where they are. Then, take heed, watch and pray, verse 33, for you do not know when the time is near. Or you do not know when the time is. You don't know when the time is. He just gave signs for Jerusalem. But now he's talking about there are no signs for this distant day. This is a different subject. This is final judgment he's talking about now. He's not talking about the judgment of Jerusalem. He's through with that for now anyway. But he's talking about something that is remote, that even he doesn't know, and no one can know when the time is. And for all of the foolish people who have tried to predict it, it's going to sound unkind. I've already said foolish. It's going to sound unkind, but it is futile to try to predict the day of judgment. It's futility. It is vanity. It is foolish, nonsensical. If Jesus says you can't know something, how is it you think you can figure it out? How is it? That's arrogance, if you ask me. That's saying that, yeah, God can have this mystery for the rest of mankind, but I can figure it out. Well, no one has, and no, you can't. No, you can't. There have been supposed biblical scholars who have tried to work it out, and they are made to look foolish. And how they continue to have followers, I have no idea. I don't know. I've had studies / heated discussions with such like of Jehovah's Witnesses. And we talked about this very thing of there was an official prediction early 20th century that the world was going to come to an end. All right, it was from Watchtower Bible and Tract Society. They're the ones, that's who predicted it. They put their name to it, and it didn't come to pass. And he agreed, yeah, it didn't come to pass. And this is what he said. He said, when I have a friend who tells me 10 things and 9 of them come true, I can still trust that friend. My answer to that is, Jesus doesn't fail a bit. If he tells you 10 things, all 10 things are going to come true. If he tells you 100 things, all 100 things are going to come true. If he told you 1,000 things, however many things, all of them will come true. Including, you do not know when the time is. And that goes for any supposed prophet today, any supposed apostle today, anyone supposedly that God has spoken to them. Why would God not reveal the last day to his own Son and yet reveal it to you? Why would he not reveal it to the angels and yet feel free to reveal it to you? All right, that doesn't make any sense. Once again, that comes to just arrogance in my book. Someone who thinks far too much of themselves, and maybe it's done for, no, I'm sure it's done for the sake of taking advantage of people, taking advantage of getting them desperate and all worked up, and because some of these have sold, I'm not talking about Jehovah's Witnesses per se, but some of these have sold homes, quit their jobs, they've given it all that they had to whatever cult they were in, and only to find out that come the supposed end day, well, the next day began, and then the next week, and then the next month, and the next year, and somebody didn't have it right. And what happened in all this? Well, you sold everything you had and you gave it to a false prophet is what you did. It's harsh, but that is the truth of the matter. Verse 33 again, take heed, watch and pray, for you do not know when the time is. It is like a man going to a far country who left his house and gave authority to his servants and to each his work and commanded the doorkeeper to watch. Watch therefore, for you do not know when the master of the house is coming. In the evening, at midnight, at the crowing of the rooster, or in the morning, lest coming suddenly he find you sleeping. Now we've got numerous parables exactly like this, exactly like it, of a master, a landowner, owner of a vineyard, a king, someone leaving, going to a distant place. When's he coming back? We have no idea. He's been gone for a couple of years now. I don't know when he's coming back. But he's going to come back. And he's going to come back and he's going to see what everyone has been doing. That is final judgment in all this. And he says, you can't know when this is going to occur. You cannot know. Verse 37, and what I say to you, I say to all, watch. That's going to every enemy of Christ through time. That's going to everybody. That's going to his faithful. That's going to the marginally faithful. That's going to the wicked. That's going to the apathetic. That's going to everybody through time. I say to all, watch. And there is quite an element there that is both of hope for the Christian, but also a warning to the non-Christian that if you don't believe he'll return, just watch what's going to happen, because in time it will occur. And yeah, people lived their life and died, this generation and the next generation, the next generation, the next generation, but Christ will return. He will return, and he says it is a distant and remote day from this point in time. He says that it's going to be a while before we get to there. A lot of things are going to be happening. And he already spoke of that of false Christ in this chapter. He gave warnings concerning false Christ. He gave warnings of rumors of wars, and wars and rumors of wars, and nation going against nation and kingdom against kingdom. He talked about earthquakes and the like, things that are going to occur. And all of this speaks of a significant period of time. Significant period of time. And when he says of that distant day, yeah, it is a distant day from where he spoke this in 30 AD. It is a distant day. Here we are in the 21st century, and it's still pending. He hasn't returned yet. But we know he will. And we are to remain watchful in all this. Now it's our time to do the work. Who left his house and gave authority to his servants and to each his work, and commanded the doorkeeper to watch. Everyone in every generation are given that same assignment, whether they take it or not. The assignment is given. And watch, yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to happen precisely as he said it would. Unpredictably, suddenly, and with the destruction of the material realm, judging of souls, casting away of Satan and his angels into hell, and with the judging of humanity, you have the wicked being tossed into hell as well. And here is this watch. Now, we come to chapter 14, and they are now the enemies of Christ, the powerful enemies that he had, are beginning to do serious plotting. It's been rumbling around in their minds. It's been rumbling around in their little discussions, because they've been talking about it. After 2 days, so chapter 14, Mark 14, verse 1, after 2 days it was the Passover and the feast of unleavened bread. And the chief priests and the scribes sought how they might take him by trickery and put him to death. But they said, not during the feast, sorry about that, lest there be an uproar of the people. This is what they have feared. Remember, they are very political minded. They only answer questions when they don't fear the people. All right? The baptism of John, is it from heaven or from men? They refused to answer, because they knew if they answered either way, either Jesus was going to say, why didn't you believe him? Or you'd have, if they said it's from men, you have all these people, the common people believe that John was a prophet. Or they'd have to deal with that problem. And here, they could easily go and get him in the temple. He's been teaching in the temple. He just overturned the tables. All right? They can easily get him in the temple, but the temple's filled with people. And the people have been coming to him to be healed. They've been listening to him. They've been astonished at his words. No one's been astonished at the words of the scribes or the Pharisees or the chief priests. No one has been astonished at their teaching. And no one comes running to them wanting to learn more. And most certainly they haven't been healing anyone. But they need to do it by trickery. They've got to. How are they going to do it? They don't know just yet. But they're going to receive help. They're going to receive inside help, and it is Judas. Because Judas knows where to find Jesus when he's not in Jerusalem. They don't know, but he does. And being in Bethany, verse 3, and being in Bethany at the house of Simon the leper, as he sat at the table, a woman came having an alabaster flask of very costly oil of spikenard. Then she broke the flask and poured it on his head. All right, here he is. He's not in Jerusalem at this moment. He's just outside Jerusalem. Bethany's not very far away, but he's outside Jerusalem. He's at the house of Simon the leper. Of course, Simon's not a leper anymore. Otherwise, he couldn't have a house. Not in Bethany anyway. And here is this woman that she has this alabaster flask of very costly oil of spikenard. Spikenard is an exotic substance, and it is very expensive. The fact that it's in an alabaster flask tells you that it must be expensive if it came in that. When you go in, like when we go to Jaymore Farms and we go and get produce, it can either be in those baskets, okay, pretty cheap things, or cardboard boxes, pretty cheap things, because the produce isn't that expensive. It's not that expensive at all. But here is something extraordinarily expensive, and to add to the expense, it's stored in this alabaster container, this flask. And that is an extraordinary gift. To put it in perspective, this would be your average salary, your average pay for one person for 1 year. That's your average person could not buy this. No way. Because they would have to be saving up their entire year's pay to buy this. This was very expensive. And, might I add, just as a side note, oil of spikenard is still expensive. It still is. A number of years ago, Catrice and I found someone who had some rather exotic sort of herbs and oils, and this goes back quite a number of years back. And they did have spikenard. We didn't get it. Okay. I think that spikenard came out of India, I think. Now, was it the real thing? Well, we couldn't tell you anyway. We couldn't tell you what spikenard smells like to even know if it's the real thing or what it looks like. We couldn't know. But it was still expensive. And these things were all stored in a special kind of we'll call it a vault, though it was locked away in a secluded room, protected room. And it's still expensive. But there are going to be some present in this room that become indignant by this. This is what is known as being self-righteous. Okay? Now, we've talked about, and notice, Judas is not the only one, because it says, verse 4, the end of verse 3, then she broke the flask and poured it on his head. Verse 4, but there were some who were indignant among themselves and said, why was this fragrant oil wasted? And they have a plan. For it might have been sold for more than 300 denarii and given to the poor. And they criticized her sharply. Here she is doing this extraordinary thing for the Christ. And they're criticizing her. This is not a mediocre gift. This is an extraordinary gift. And as he will say, she has done a good work for me. And that she has come beforehand to anoint my body for burial. He's saying this is what she has done. Now, whether she knows it or not, I don't know. She might, because he's been saying these things. He's been saying it. And he's going to continue to just a little bit. He's going to identify, though they won't quite catch it, he's going to identify the one who's about to betray him. And now, they see this. This is just, they're indignant, and it is self-righteous of, well, I wouldn't have done that. I would have sold it and given that away to the poor. And this is what Jesus says. Verse 6, but Jesus said, let her alone. Why do you trouble her? She has done a good work for me. For you have the poor with you always, and whenever you wish, you may do them good. But me you do not always have. Here's some things we need to know. One, and we've talked about things like this every now and then. He's saying the poor will always be with you. All right? You will for you have the poor with you always. Now, he's saying there'll never be a point in time where there won't be poor people. He's saying that. Because he's saying it's always. Or you want to do good to the poor? Well, you will have plenty of opportunity to do that. For the rest of your life, you will have plenty of opportunity to do that. Okay. And also, it goes beyond that. If we think that we can rid the world of poverty, we're wrong about that. Okay, we're wrong. That it can't be done. Should we help? Yes, as individuals, yes, we should. And as a church, yes, we should. But there is no way to have that as a goal is a pipe dream. Because Christ said, you'll always have the poor. There's going to be a time when no one is poor and there'll be no need for benevolence. No, there'll always be people who are poor. Always. It'll always happen. And I'm just putting some things into what Jesus just told them. And he says, if it's the poor you want to take care of, you're going to have a lot of time to do that. A lot of time. She's done a good work here. She has done precisely. Verse 8, she has done what she could. She has come beforehand to anoint my body for burial. She's done what she could. All right? Nobody else did this, right? Nobody else did this. Peter has said he would rather die than allow Jesus. He would die along with him. But Peter's going to deny him. Okay? This is a far cry from she did what she could. She didn't say, at least it doesn't say that she did. She doesn't say, I'll protect you to the death. She has done something that is astonishing. She did what she could. And while someone like Peter will promise great things, it doesn't come to pass. He doesn't fulfill it. He doesn't see it through. Just the opposite occurs. She's come beforehand to anoint my body for burial. Assuredly, I say to you, wherever this gospel is preached in the whole world, what this woman has done will also be told as a memorial to her. And here we are. Said again, read again, that what she did will be spoken of wherever the gospel is taken, and in what time it is being taken, which is throughout time, all the way to the end. What she did will be remembered. What she did. And this goes all the way to the end of time. Obviously, though we don't have Mark at this moment writing this book. He's going to later, I don't know how many years later, but Mark will eventually write this book. But right now, he's not writing it. Right now, he's seeing these things transpire, but he hasn't written it yet. But it is with someone like Mark that we have these things as a memorial for her. Now, we come to verse 10. We shift scenes now of what Judas is doing. Judas is planning things. Now, Jesus, we've already discussed this, but Jesus could tell his apostles and his disciples as clearly as it could be stated that he's going to be betrayed, that he's going to face the chief priests and the scribes, and he's going to be killed, and he's going to rise the third day. He could tell them in very, very cut and dry language in all this. Now, could someone like Pontius Pilate betray Christ? No, because that's not the word. The word betrayal means someone who's close to you. Pontius Pilate is not close to Christ at all. What about Herod? Herod's not close to Christ. What about the chief priests? Well, no, they haven't been close to Christ. It's obvious they've been antagonistic. Herod, ungodly. Pontius Pilate couldn't care. He couldn't care at all as long as there's law and order, and he's another one of these political animals. As long as everything looks okay for him, he's fine. So what am I getting at? To say that he's going to be betrayed means someone close is going to do it. Well, how close? Well, now we find out. Verse 10, then Judas Iscariot, one of the 12, went to the chief priests to betray him to them. And when they heard it, they were glad and promised to give him money, so he sought how he might conveniently betray him. You know, prior to this, the chief priest probably would have seen Judas Iscariot as a nobody, as just another country bumpkin, as another silly person who has thrown in their hat, as we might say, or who's put his loyalty into Jesus of Nazareth. He's just a follower of a problem of theirs. But now, yeah, they receive him gladly. Sure, when they heard it, they were glad. And they're going to give him money. They're going to give him money for this. They're going to pay him for it. Well, yeah. We can go to Zechariah 11, and we can see this being spoken of from Zechariah obviously is writing this down, but Zechariah 11 saying it from a very first-person approach. Then I said to them, Zechariah 11, verse 12. Then I said to them, if it is agreeable to you, give me my wages, and if not, refrain. So they weighed out for my wages 30 pieces of silver. And the Lord said to me, throw it to the potter, that princely price they set on me. So I took the 30 pieces of silver and threw them into the house of the Lord for the potter. And as we see in the construction, in the wording in which Zechariah has several of its passages. This isn't the first one. All right, here it is. And the Lord, that is, and Jehovah said to me, what does he say? Throw it to the potter, that princely price they set on me. Jehovah said that. Jehovah said that. Now, I'm reading from the New King James. New King James stops the quotation marks, throw it to the potter. But here we have a continuation of that quote, that princely price they set on me. Verse 12 says, if it's agreeable to you, give me my wages. So this person's saying this in verse 12, this person is getting wages. It's not a price on them. This person is getting wages. So they weighed out for me my wages, 30 pieces of silver. And it's Jehovah said to me, throw it to the potter, that princely price they set on me. It's 30 pieces of silver is the price for Jehovah in the flesh. It is God in the flesh that's the price set on Him. That's the price. Now, we come back to Mark chapter 14, and so he sought how he might conveniently betray him. So he's got to work it out. And it'll be easy, really. It'll be easy. He's on the inside. He knows where Jesus is going to be. He knows, and obviously, among the 12, they weren't always every minute of the day with Jesus. It would not have been an uncommon thing for someone to go off and you may not even know where they went. Or someone like Judas goes off, you don't even know where they went, as not Jesus would know. But as far as the other apostles or the disciples, they wouldn't know where anybody necessarily went. It would just be coming and going and things needing to be done. Now, verse 12. Now on the first day of unleavened bread, when they killed the Passover lamb, his disciples said to him, where do you want us to go and prepare that you may eat the Passover? So here's the observance of the Passover. The Passover is about to arrive. As far as the preparing and eating the Passover meal, all right, where do we go? Verse 13. And this is very similar to the instructions he gave those who found that foal of a donkey. Go in and you're going to find the foal. It's going to be tied up. When someone asks you, this is your answer, and they're going to let you have it. This is a very similar thing. Verse 13. So Mark 14, verse 13. And he sent out two of his disciples and said to them, go into the city, and a man will meet you carrying a pitcher of water. Follow him. Wherever he goes in, say to the master of the house, the teacher says, where is the guest room in which I may eat the Passover with my disciples? So he will show you a large upper room, furnished and prepared. There make ready for us. All right, he doesn't say, come back. He says, okay, go find the room. Jesus knows where the room is. He knows where this is. All right, go and prepare for us. Make all the preparations necessary for us to come. And so this would be another one of those things of where you have two disciples, they're sent out, and you may, as another disciple around Jesus, you may have no idea what they were sent to do. You may not know. This sort of thing would have been happening quite a bit. And so, verse 16, his disciples went out and came into the city and found it just as he had said to them, and they prepared the Passover. In the evening he came with the 12. Now as they sat and ate, Jesus said, assuredly I say to you, one of you who eats with me will betray me. Now, this is a section we need more time on, and we're running out of our time today. We need more time on. But he is, in fact, giving them clues as to who his betrayer is. And there is only one other person sitting with him who knows who the betrayer is, as Judas. Because Judas has already been doing his work. He's already got the promise to be paid, and he's already gone and made the arrangements of how it's going to be done, or the fact that he's going to be doing it, and how he is capable of hearing all this and continuing on his track to betray Jesus is beyond me. I don't know. I just don't know. But I am certain he's not the only one we could look at. I know for a fact he's not the only one we could look at of where certain things were said about them. They knew it was said about them, and they did it anyway. Okay? And Judas is not peculiar in that respect. That he says, one of you who eats with me will betray me. That is a clue that, yeah, it's someone in that room. It is one of the 12. It's one of the 12 who's going to be doing this. And there are 5 total he's going to be giving at this supper. 5 total clues. And they're going to be missing them, except Judas. Judas knows very well. Judas is not missing him because he is the betrayer, and he knows he's a betrayer. And okay, we will continue next time. And thank you, everybody.